Early on April the 25th, 1915, an amphibious force of British, French, Australian and New Zealand troops began landing on the Turkish peninsula of Gallipoli. Their aim? To knock Germany's ally, Turkey, out of the war. Opposing them, on cliffs overlooking the shore, was a smaller Turkish force. From his battleship, the Allied commander, Sir Ian Hamilton, watched the spectacle unfold.
The day was just breaking over the jagged hills. The landing of the lads from the south was in full swing. We could see boatloads making for the land, swarms trying to straighten themselves out along the shore. God, one would think, cannot see them at all, or he would put a stop to this sort of panorama altogether.
The peninsula chosen for the assault guarded the entrance of the Dardanelles Straits. 4 weeks earlier, the British Navy had failed to open up this route to the Black Sea and its ally, Russia. Now it was the Army's turn.
An amphibious expedition is the most difficult operation of warfare, especially if you're sending it against something like the Gallipoli Peninsula, which must be one of the most defensible pieces of geography in the world. What you've got is a very few beaches and then high cliffs, overhanging cliffs, towering hills, an absolutely ideal place for a defending force to place itself.
By mid-afternoon on the first day, 8,000 Allied soldiers were on the beaches. The outnumbered Turks began to retreat, but Lieutenant Colonel Mustafa Kemal, the man who would become Ataturk, faced them.
I said to the men who were running away, "You cannot run away from the enemy." "We have no ammunition," they said. "If you haven't got ammunition, you have your bayonets." And shouting to the men, I made them fix their bayonets and lie down on the ground. I said, "I don't order you to attack. I order you to die."
The Turkish troops stood their ground, allowing time for reinforcements to arrive.
They knew they would die in about 3 minutes, but they showed not the least dismay. There was no wavering. Those who could read prepared to enter paradise with the Quran in their hands. Those who could not recited the martyr's prayer as they went forward.
By holding the high ground, the Turks trapped the Allies between the cliffs and the sea. From his ship, Hamilton could do nothing but order his men to hold the narrow beaches they occupied.
You have got through the difficult business. Now you have only to dig, 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 until you are safe.
It's not really an episode in a great European war between industrial powers at all. It's the old British imperial tradition. Once it started not working, people decided, but good heavens, British prestige is at stake, that the whole Muslim world will feel that we have been humiliated.
Gallipoli, which was to have been a quick victory, was turning into an eastern version of the Western Front. a war of trenches and stalemate.
As we approach the shore, what an aspect opens up before us. Valleys and valleys, scrub-covered hillsides, men getting about everywhere and looking all the world like ants. But above all, the thing that meets, or rather hits the eye, is the number of dugouts. The whole landscape is covered with them. It looks for all the world like a mining camp.
Cyril Lawrence was one of the Anzacs, Australian and New Zealand soldiers, who went ashore at Gallipoli 1 month into the campaign.
The trenches are totally different to what I expected. It is sure death to put your head up to look around. Even the periscope mirrors, measuring 3 inches square at most, are picked off one after the other. When the Turks charge, they usually cry, "Allah, Allah," and our boys reply, "Come on, you bastards, we'll give you Allah." And from the frequent use of this word, poor old Turk wants to know if bastard is one of our gods.
At some places, the trenches were very close. They could hear the voice of each other. They could hear the Turks singing songs in the evening. They asked questions at each other. Why are you fighting? Why are you here? It's very interesting. I mean, can you imagine a war during the 8.5 months? They were fighting. Thousands of soldiers were killed on both sides, and still they were not hating each other.
The Turks were not simply fighting for their homeland. The Turkish soldier Hasan Ethem, a teacher and law student before the war, described how they were also fighting for their faith.
My dearest mother, I can see a line of soldiers washing their clothes in the stream near the emerald green hillside. One soldier with a beautiful voice is saying prayers. Everyone, everything is listening to that heavenly voice. I forgot all about the chaos and the war and the worldly troubles. I opened my hands, looked up at the heavens and said, God of Turks, Master of the birds, the sheep, the leaves, the mountains, you have given all this to the Turks. Please leave it to the Turks. God, all this soldier wants is to keep this land from the British and the French. Grant me this wish. Please make the bayonets of the soldiers sharp and destroy our enemies.
By summer, the Allied troops had still not moved. Hamilton realized that to take the high ground, he needed more men. His badly planned campaign and poorly equipped army had nowhere to go.
The War Office urged me to throw my brave troops yet once more against the machine guns in redoubts. To do it on the cheap. To do it without asking for the shells that give the attack a sporting chance. People slur over my appeal for the shells and yet continue to urge us on as if we were hanging back.
The Allied troops clung to their strip of sand throughout autumn and into winter. In November, Lord Kitchener, the British Secretary of State for War, took a look for himself. He concluded the Gallipoli campaign a waste of officers and men. In December 1915, with 250,000 men killed, wounded or missing, the Allies began to evacuate the peninsula. They got little further than their original beachhead. The encounter of Turk against Anzac on the cliffs of Gallipoli was confirmation that the European war had now expanded into something else: the First World War.